Hello, listeners. Hi, my name is Madhavi, and I'm so happy to have you on UppTalk. You have come to the right place if you want to learn about IT and do really cool things with your hands. We are not just another IT company when I say UppTalk. Think of us as your learning partner dedicated to helping you reach your full potential. We have top notch hands on courses to help you build your business, whether you're new to technology or want to move up in your current job. Let's look around this as our first step towards learning.
All right, let me quickly go ahead and create the custom report once again. All right, the sub report. Once again, I want to create a new custom report. The only problem that the only reason we were not able to actually get the report working was we had not selected the report type earlier. That was the whole problem. What I'll do is ZF. This is sub report 1. And I think I have this created already. What I've done is I have created 2 reports. This one, sub report 1. Right. And this basically gives me a list of all the standard reports available in the tenant along with the total. If I go to the report definition real quick, this is a very simple report. All I'm taking is the report types. If I can quickly come back, both the reports are on the similar parameter. My grouping parameter is basically the report type. That's what I am using as my group by field. And then, as a summarization field, I'm simply counting the output of those report types. That's why I see that for advanced, the total count is 2244. Now for custom reports, what I've also done is I have also added additional parameter or additional summarization. For the standard report, there is obviously just one summarization, which is the count. Because when it comes to standard reports, there's no concept of a temporary standard report. But if you look at the custom report that I have built or the report which is pulling me all the custom reports, there is another summarization I have added, which is temporary count, and which basically gives me the count of all temporary employees. If I look at the other report definition, all I've done is I have added additional summarization, which is sum, and this is a Workday delivered field. I'm basically adding all the reports which are temporary, right? I'm basically checking is the report a temporary report, and if it is yes, I'm just returning one. This is that eval expression field that we had discussed last time. Let me quickly open it once. If I go into this field, all I'm checking is the report temporary? If you see here, returns true if the report definition is temporary. If it is temporary, I'm returning 1. If the report is non-temporary, I'm returning 0. And then I'm simply counting the result. I'm simply counting or doing a sum of all the temporary reports that are returned. Makes sense? Now let's create our composite report. Create custom report as usual is our report task. I'm creating a report called ZF View All Reports in Tenant. I am selecting the report type as composite. The moment I select the report type as composite, my view changes. Now here, last time I was not directly adding the business object, and that is why it was giving me that null error. Now what is my business object? If you look at this report, and let's open the other report as well. Let me open the custom report as well. And when deciding the business object, if you look at both these reports, one is all custom reports. Now these are two reports. I can only see the screen of create custom report. Oh, let me just wait. Let me do one thing. If you see, there are two reports that I have. What is view? Custom report for all standard reports. And this is the business object for all standard reports is the business object that I've used for all standard reports is standard report, and the business object that I have used for all custom reports is custom report. If you see as such, there are two reports that I'm going to use as sub-reports, but the primary business object of both these reports is different. One is custom report and the second one is standard reports. Now, when I'm creating my composite report, what should be the business object? Obviously, it should be an object which links both or all of the sub-reports that I'm going to use on the composite report. And what would that be? That would be report type. If you see, here I'm taking the report type as the grouping field for both my reports, standard reports as well as custom reports. Here, instead of selecting the actual business object, what we select on a composite report is the field which is used for the purpose of grouping. Now, when I'm creating my custom report, I would select a report type as the business object. Makes sense? In this case, the grouping is same like report type. What if the groupings in both the metrics report is different, like one is country, the other one is state? Then you'll have to select both those report types. If you see, I have the option of selecting others as well. Let's see if I can search for company. If there are more than one reports with different grouping parameters, then all of those will have to be selected. You can have more than one business. Sorry, this is the mandatory step we have to say. This is mandatory because without Workday knowing what is the parameter by which it is going to, the composite report is going to link with the sub-reports. It will not know which sub-reports to pull. Now we'll see this in the next screen. Identifying a key field is the primary task when you build your custom report. Now, when I click now, you'll see this takes me to the screen for building my composite report. And what is that prompt set? It was there in the prompt set is when you have multiple reports. Now both are our reports. We are not using any prompts, right? But let's say I have two reports or three reports, and in all three reports I want to pass, let's say, company as the parameter. Now, instead of passing it separately on each of my individual reports, I can instead create a prompt set. A prompt set allows me to pass parameters to more than one report through the common set of parameters on the composite report. I'll show that to you. Alright, even now, if I want, I can go ahead and define the prompt set. This gear icon that you see here, prompt set is completely optional. It is only required when all of your different reports have similar selection parameters. If I go to Prompts tab, if you see, here I can define the prompts. But that is not required for us right now. Right now, the moment I select a report type as the business object on my composite report, this is the screen that opens up. Right now, this is similar to an Excel worksheet. Now, the first thing that we need to define for creating a custom report is the control field. What field is acting as a control field which will allow me to link this composite report with subreports. Now, in our case, the control field is report type because the report type is the field which we have selected as our business object. And that is the field which will allow us to link this composite report to both our subreports. Irrespective of what business object you select, irrespective of how many business objects you select, you'll always have to define control fields. Here we just have one control field. I'm clicking on my first column, which is C1, and this shows me this downward triangle. And when I click on it, the first thing that, as I mentioned, that I need to define is the control field. If there are different reports with different grouping fields, then you'll have to create as many control fields. In our case, because both our reports have the same grouping field, we just need to define one control field. I'm selecting control field. What is my control field? My control field is report type. The reason it is taking control type by default is because I just selected one business object. Had I selected more than one, they would all have shown here. Now this defaulted because there's just one. Had there been more than one, then Workday would have asked me to select one of the relevant ones. Now I'm naming this column. The name of this column could be anything. I'm simply naming it as the same as the business object, but this could be anything. I could have named this column as A, B, C. I could have named this column as A, B, C. I'm selecting report type. As the column name. And I would click on. We'll talk about styles and other options later. Let me click. Alright, the first thing that I have defined is the control field. The name of the control field is report type, or the name of this column is control type, and the report type and the control field that I have selected is report type. Makes sense. Now, since I have defined my control field, now based on that control field, I can select all the sub-reports, and it is these sub-reports which will allow me to pull data on my custom report. The next column is where I'll define my data fields. Data field is what I'm defining now. This I'm calling as standard reports. Again, this is the name of the column that would show up, and here I'm going to select my sub-reports. Now what sub-reports will be available? This would be only those sub-reports which have the same grouping field as the control fields that I have selected. When I bring my cursor and click on PROMs, I have not entered any selection, but if you see Workday's only showing me 3 reports, or the reason or reports is because these are the reports which are built on the same grouping by field as the control field that I have selected. This is the first report I'm selecting. Now, this report has, if I can go back, my all standard reports, this one, how many summarizations does it have? It has just one summarization called count. That is the field that gets added. When I scroll down, I have selected my sub-report as all standard reports, and the fields to aggregate is count. What is this count? This is the count that I have defined on my sub-report. and I'll click on. This is my first data column. Let me add my second data column as well. Now here I'm bringing in data from my first custom report, which is standard reports. Now I also want to bring in data from my second custom report, which is basically the custom reports in the tenant. Once again, I'll click here. I'll define the data column. Now, in this data column, I want to get the custom reports count, and where am I going to get it from? From my second sub-report. When I click here, it again shows me all full of those sub-reports, and I'm taking the second one. Now, when I take the second one, if you see here, my fields to aggregate is defaulted to count, but here I have two summarizations. One is count and the temporary count. Basically, in here, I have two summarizations. One is count and the second one is temporary count. I can select either one of these. For now, I'm selecting count. And once again, I'm clicking on Make Sense. First column would be control field. The other one would be defining the data. The other one would be data columns, and you can define as many data columns as you want. I've created two data columns, one to get data from all standard reports sub-report, and the second one to get data from all custom reports sub-report. If I want to edit any one of these, I can edit it. I can delete the columns. I can create a duplicate column, and on and forth. Let me edit this. The first data column, and I want to call it same as my second, which is standard reports count. Now I want to add a new column with the same parameters. I can click here and create a duplicate column. This will add a new column, and I can make whatever changes I want to. For now, let's not do any one of those. I have created a composite report with data being pulled from two sub-reports. Let's run this now. Now, if you see, let me run both my sub-reports simultaneously. This is my first sub-report, which shows all standard reports. This is my second sub-report, which shows all custom reports. From my first sub-report, I'm getting the count, and from my second sub-report, again I'm getting the count. Now, when I go to the composite report, if you see, I'm able to pull all that information together. I'm able to pull that from, there are 1597 standard reports of type advanced, which is what basically I see here as well. And how many custom reports do I have of type advanced to double? 4, 7, which is what I see here as well. I'm able to pull data from two different reports. Both these reports are on completely different business objects. There was no way with a matrix report I could have brought this data together. Makes sense? Any questions till now? We are totaling composite. Total is missing. Can we add total in composite? We will come to that. We will come to that. Any questions till now? No? Alright. For now I have defined everything at my column level. All data that I want to pull, all calculations that I want to do, I would define at the column level. Now once again, if I run this report as you asked, I also need to get the total. There are, of course, 10 transposed reports of type standard, 33 transposed reports of type custom. What I need a total of transposed reports, which is 43. How do I do that? Now I have pulled data. I have defined my control field. What I need to do is do some calculation. And what is the calculation that I want to do? I want to simply count the number of reports in this with this and get me the overall number. Here, what I want to first add an empty column. The reason you would add an empty column is just to add some gap. Wherever you want to add some gap for the purpose of formatting, you can add an empty column. System will not show anything in here. I'm just adding some empty column. The next thing I want to define is how did I add my empty column? I clicked on define and then empty. But this time I want to do a calculation. And what calculation that I want to do? I want to count the number of reports. The name of this column I'm saying is total count or total report count. And I want to count. And here there are different options. I can find the difference. I can divide, I can multiply, I can find the percentage, I can sum, and I can sum range. What is that I want to sum? I want to sum the number of reports which are returned by C2. What is C2? If you see, this is column 2 and I want to sum it till C3. Sum range allows me to define a range. Of course, these are two consecutive. And that's why sum range doesn't make any sense. Here, sum would have been enough. What is sum? Sum allows me to sum column 2 with column 3. But range allows me to add a range. I write from column 2 till column 10. I want to count everything or add everything. In this context, both would give me the same results. And I'm saying, here, what am I doing? I am getting the total report count, which is basically the sum of C2, which is column 2 plus C3. Let's run this report now. Alright, we see system has added an empty column for me. And here I'm getting the total report count, which is basically, if you see here, 10 plus 33. It gives me 43 and 22. It gives me 22 and 100 plus 29. It gives me 39. Makes sense. Alright. Now, the true capability of a composite report is that it allows me to do any additional formatting as well. For example, let me go back. I want to add one more empty column here. I'm adding another empty column. Not sure if it will allow me duplicate names. Now from my second report, which is custom report, I also want to get the sum of the temporary reports. Earlier, we just pulled one summarization, which is basically the count. Now I also want to get the second summarization. Once again, I am now going to column number 7 and I want to define a new data column. And this I'm calling as temporary report. And once again, I want to pull data from my subreport too. And what data do I want to pull this time? I want to pull the temporary count. Now I'm getting the count of standard reports, count of custom reports, the overall count of the reports, and then from my second subreport, I'm also getting the temporary report count, which is basically 326 and 75 and 20 and 20 and on. Let's do some formatting as well. What I want is, let's go back. This is what is getting me the report names right. Advanced matrix trending. Let me run it once again. It is the control column. This is kind of my grouping column. If you see here, where is this coming from? This is coming from the row grouping that we defined on the report. Similarly, this is coming from the control column that I defined. I want to do some formatting on my control column. This is coming from the control column. This is coming from the first data column. This is coming from the second data column. This is coming from the calculation. I want to do some formatting, some styling. Right? I'll go back and I can define a style. I can either do it here. Once again, I want to do some formatting. Either I can click on Style option, which is directly available here, or even on Edit. I have the same styling options. Earlier, we did not do it or have a look at that. Now, if you want, I can click on Style. In terms of style, if you go here, Workday has given us a lot of standard styles. People have created some custom styles. I can create my own formatting style. I can define a style using color and bold option and on and forth. Let's first see the styles that are available. These are all styles available, right? I can do a center alignment. I can do a right alignment. I can do some bold. Basically, I can define any styles that I want to. These are all work-based standard style. Sorry, I didn't get that. This is only available in Composite, right? I mean, these are only available. But do we have this style in Advanced? No, we don't. This is why Composite is created, right? Because there are certain options which are only available in Composite. What I've done is I have created a style saying that this is a report header. Let me run this report now. If you see now, because this is a report header, this is a Workday delivered style, and that's how it is showing. Let's see if I can add some styles to my other columns. And as I mentioned, there are lots of standard styles available. People have created custom styles as well. My total count. Once again, I want to add some style. I can go in here and either select any of the Workday delivered style or some custom styles which people have created. This I want to be blue and blank when 0, or this is some cash total. There's some standard style available. I'm not sure how it would look, but let's select that. This is how the style looks. Right. You can define any style that you want to. I want to define a few other styles here. This, I want to define a style. And the style that I want to define is blue blank 1, 0. Now, if you see, this is blue, and whenever it is 0, Earlier it was showing me 0. The way it shows me here, but the style I have selected is, whenever it is 0, show me blank. This way I can do any formatting that I want to. Now what do we do on the rows? Now any rows are basically used for any update to the formatting. The default data that I'm getting from the custom reports, I'm directly pulling the data onto my composite report. Any extra formatting that I want to do, I can do it at the row level. If, for example, let's say for each of these columns, I want to get the total. Here I have the totals for row. 10 plus 33 is giving me the row total, which is 43 and 22 and 100, and 10 plus 29, 139. I am getting the row total, but then I do not have the column total as of now. I want to get the column total as well. Now, how do I do that? I would get that through defining options at the row level or at the column level. Sorry, at the row level. Now, any additional filters I want to do. Let me do one thing. Let me open this report in a separate tab, run it here that we can compare it side by side. This is how the report looks right now. This is how the report looks right now. Any additional formatting or filtering that I want to, I can do it at the row level. For example, when I come here, I am now going to my row, and let's say out of all these columns or all these rows the report is giving me, I only want data for advanced and composite report, or let's say advanced and matrix report. I want to filter out all the other report types. Now, this kind of filtering can be done using the report or using the row level. Here, now I can go to row and define a lookup data. What is lookup data? Lookup data is basically similar to my vloc IUP or any filter that I want to define. Here as well, I can do a calculation. I can insert an empty field or empty row, but I want to do a lookup data. Here, I want to call it advanced. And here, if you see, for this row, I can do a filter or I can define a filter criteria. I'm saying report type in the selection list because this is only one key field available. Workday populates that key field for me. I'm saying report type is advanced. Let's select this and run this now. You see, now it is only giving me data for report type advanced. Anything that you do at the row level, any filter that you define at the row level would override everything that has been done at the column level. Right? I want to include other report types as well. Let's see how it works. I want to edit this once again. And basically what I want is in this, I want to include both advanced as well as simple report. I'm calling it, and let's run this now. Now it is giving me, let's quickly check. I have 59 samples, which is around 79.3. It is getting 50.97. Here it is. Oh, very simple. Simple is 0 here. 1597 plus 0 if is 0 and 4447 plus 7 plus 2469, which is what I get here. I want to add any other filter. Currently we only have report type, but if you add any other filter, it wouldn't be of any use. Let's do a lookup and let's see the report. Owner. Do I have that option? All filters are driven by your key field that you have selected or your control. The reason I'm doing this is because now I want matrix and trending. Together. I could have added them separately if had I wished, but I'm just adding them together to show you how you can group data together. I want to create a new lookup field, and this is for inbox and search. I'm saying inbox and search. Search and post. And finally, I want to add how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is composite. And here I have composite. Let's run it once. This is how I'm getting my data. Now, what I want to do is I want to get the row total, the column totals. Now, as such, it was not directly possible without adding these filters. Unless you have a rows defined, you cannot get this column total. And that's why I had to. This total was easy because the reason was, let me show that. We were able to get this total because we had these columns defined. All I did was I said, get the sum of C2 and C3, which is where I got this result. But unless I had defined these rows, there's no way I can get this row total. Now that I have defined my rows, I can do a new calculation here. I want to add an empty string or an empty row. Now, one sec. I have entered an empty column, and what I want to do is I want to do a new calculation, and here this time I want to use sum range because I want to sum right from row 1 till row 4. Because I was just adding two columns. I selected the option sum, but sum range, if you see, allows me to sum the entire range. Tomorrow, if you add a new row between row 1 and row 4 again, it will be automatically updated. This is once again. Total report. I want to do some formatting styling as well. Here once again, I want to say this is catch totals. I don't know what that formatting means, but I'm selecting that and I'm saying this is how I'm getting my report out. Alright, what I've done is I've added an empty row. I have done some formatting, all the other options which are on Composite matrix report. If you see, I have the drill down options which is coming directly from the matrix report. I don't have to do anything else. The only thing is on a Composite report, you cannot have charts being displayed. Composite report is only used for the purpose of showing data. You cannot have any charts being displayed. Now on this empty column, I can do some other. Format, I can do conditional formatting as well. Let me run this report once again. What I want is if, let's say, report count is less than 200, then I want to show it in red. Just as an example, let's see if I can do that. Now I have entered an empty column here. If I want, I can do some conditional formats. I want to define a conditional format, and here I'll have to build a calculation. Let's see if there are any condition rules available. There are now none. Here I want to say, raw, or what I want is by column. What is my column Nifty 2? I miss greater than 0. I've created a new condition. If that is the case, what I want is, I want to add a new style. And what is the style that I want to add? I want to do a gray bold underline. I don't know what that is. If I want, I can hide something. If this condition becomes true, comp report, count is greater than 0. Now, if this condition becomes true, then for example, I can hide it right now. It says, do not overwrite but visibility. I can hide it, I can show it. I have overwritten this style. What happens if the condition is false? Then again, I can define a different style. The condition is true, then I can use a certain style. If the condition is false, I can use a certain style. This way you can define conditional formatting and you can do formatting at each row. Let's see why is it not. That is tell. Let's look at the condition. What are 4? It is row number 4 and column number 2. It is the condition formatting on empty row. No, all condition formatting will be done on empty row. On a normal row, you cannot define a condition. A conditional formatting are used for the purpose of empty, used on the purpose. Even though you are defining this conditional, the reason you do it here is to keep everything else clean. But let me I want to define an override condition. Let me say by column C1 report type. On empty row. If my and column. Oh no, it was row 4 and column 2. That's why it was not giving me greater than. On the board. It was not giving me. Let me select gray bold underline. Else, what happens if the condition is false? Then I want it to be left and bold. I'm just randomly selecting some styles. Any formatting can be done on an empty row as long as the condition is true. Now, you see it is, the reason it is giving me this highlight is because as per my condition, what is the condition that I have written? The condition that I have written, my earlier condition was actually false or incorrect. What is the condition that I have written? I have basically said if row 4 and column second, what is my row 4? This one and column second. Earlier, I had selected row 4 and column 1. Now, what I'm saying is if row 4 and column 2, which is composite, and standard reports column, if its value is greater than 0. If it is true, then gray and bold and underlined. It is underlined and bold and gray. However, if it is false, then do a left wing. This formatting, let me delete this and do it at the empty level. Let me clear this. And let me update this formatting itself. I want to. Define conditions. Usually we use these empty rows for defining these conditional formats, and we can define any kind of conditional formats in empty row, even if it is not related to that empty row. The advantage of a composite report is that it gives you this whole list of styling options. You can introduce gaps. Wherever you have this reporting requirement, wherein you need advanced formatting layouts, conditional formatting, getting data from different subreports, adding, doing some calculations from different subreports. That's where you can build a composite report. Again, for example, I could have got a percentage of the temporary reports out of my total custom report. Again, I could have created a new calculation for that. A composite report basically allows me to do all of this styling, which is absolutely not possible with any of the report types except for BART report. BART reports are used for a completely different purpose. They are used for generating letters and statements. For example, your compensation revision letter and all those purposes. That's where BART reports are used. Please do like, share, and subscribe to our channel. For more information, contact us sales@therightuptalk.com.